A shocking revelation to tell you about right now. Information regarding the unmasking of Trump campaign members by former Obama National Security Advisor Susan Rice is stored at the Obama Library and will be under lock and key for 5 years. This just coming to us right now, according to Judicial Watch, which had learned of the obstruction from a letter by the National Security Council. The president of Judicial Watch is livid about the development and says he hopes special counsel Robert Mueller will look into the matter. For more on all of it, I'm joined by Olympic Media Managing Editor and editor of the Daily Caller, Katie Freitas, and radio talk show host on New York's WOR, Mark Simone. Good to have both you here. Katie, I'll start with you. Your reaction to this. They wanted to figure out who wanted the unmasking done. And it turns out we won't know because that'll be in the Obama Library for the next 5 years. What do you think?
Well, right, and by the time we do get to figure out what's going on, you're right, it'll have been half a decade. So this is just another roadblock that gets in the way of figuring out the truth and figuring out what's really happening. So we'll see. It's just extremely unfortunate that we have to wait 5 years. And the question is, why do we have to wait so long? Why did this happen in the first place, and why can't we know now? Is there not some way we can figure this out?
Mark, isn't it important to understand the context of everything that's going on right now? Shouldn't we be able to get that information?
Absolutely. It's vital information. This is a very serious thing, this leaking, and President Obama should be absolutely pushed to issue a statement. It's in his building, his library, under his control, why he personally will not release this.
You know, the fear, of course, Katie, is that President Obama and his team were doing this for political reasons. In other words, they wanted to leave this trail. They wanted to basically expose Donald Trump and members of his administration to all that they're getting exposed to essentially right now. But by unmasking this, could we have not been able to then therefore see that play out? I mean, by hiding it, no one knows?
Well, that's the thing. No one knows. And for better or for worse, it is something that we need to shine a light on. I mean, you can already see these partisan attacks going on with what James Comey revealed about Loretta Lynch and Hillary Clinton and her pressuring them to lay off on her investigation. Things like this were happening all over, whether it was Clinton, whether it was former President Barack Obama. And we need to know what's going on. And 5 years is far, far too long to wait.
And there may be one other thing for this. If they had all that surveillance in the Trump campaign, they may be hiding it because it proves there was no collusion of any kind.
I'll tell you one thing, Mark. I mean, politics, you always knew it was kind of seedy, right? Not a great business. But I'll tell you, some of this stuff is really bringing it out into the open in a way that I think is probably very challenging for this president. He's a guy who comes from the business world, right? And not only that, I've made this point before. He didn't have to answer to shareholders. He didn't have to answer to a board of directors. He answered to himself. In other words, he needed to be successful for himself, for his business, for his family. He goes in, becomes president of the United States. He wants us all to be successful. He wants the economy to succeed. And lo and behold, there are a lot of different factions that perhaps he didn't bargain on.
Yeah, you know, he's been a friend of mine for 25 years. I've watched him very closely get into some real scrapes, get into real roadblocks, have every level of government shut him down, but come back in 6 months and that building is there. In the end, he always gets it done, and you can be sure by the end of the year, early next year, he'll have everything on track.
What's it going to take to do that? I mean, Katie, what is it going to? How does he start to get some of these members of the swamp, shall we say, to start to play ball with him? Because right now it's just resistance, resistance, resistance.
Well, honestly, it's a butting of heads between both. I'm personally a proponent of Donald Trump not tweeting as much as he does, but there has to be respect on both sides. And unfortunately, a lot of the media, a lot of these insiders, a lot of the swamp don't respect him and don't want to see anything good happen to him. They don't respect him as president, and therefore they're not going to want to work with him in any capacity.